Immigration and border policy have become one of the most talked about political issues in the United States today, dominating debates in Congress, shaping campaign messaging, and driving strong reactions from voters across the political spectrum. The issue sits at the center of questions about national security, economic stability, humanitarian responsibility, and the role of federal versus state authority. The heart of the debate is the continued surge of migrants arriving at the southern border. Border crossings remain historically high, placing pressure on federal agencies, state governments, and local communities. Supporters of stricter enforcement argue that the current system is overwhelmed and unsustainable, pointing to overcrowded facilities, strained resources, and concerns about public safety. They say the federal government has failed to maintain control of the border and that stronger enforcement measures are urgently needed. On the other side, immigration advocates emphasize the humanitarian dimension of the issue. Many migrants are fleeing violence, political instability, and economic collapse in their home countries. Advocates argue that the United States has a moral and legal obligation to provide asylum to those seeking protection. They warn that overly aggressive enforcement policies could violate human rights and put vulnerable people at risk. Congress has struggled to find common ground. Bipartisan negotiations have taken place, but meaningful reform has remained elusive. Some lawmakers are pushing for legislation that combines stronger border security with pathways to legal status for certain undocumented immigrants. Others reject compromise, insisting that enforcement must come first before any discussion of legalization. The political consequences of this gridlock are significant. Immigration has become a defining issue for voters, particularly in border states and major cities receiving large numbers of migrants. Governors and mayors have publicly criticized federal leadership, saying they are being forced to manage a national issue with limited support. In response, some states have taken matters into their own hands, passing their own immigration-related laws and challenging federal authority. These state actions have sparked legal battles that raise constitutional questions. Courts are being asked to determine how much power states have to enforce immigration laws, a responsibility traditionally reserved for the federal government. The outcomes of these cases could reshape how immigration policy is enforced nationwide. Public opinion remains deeply divided. Polls show that many Americans want stronger border control, while also supporting legal immigration and humane treatment of migrants. This contradiction reflects the complexity of the issue. Voters are frustrated with chaos at the border but are also uneasy with policies that appear harsh or discriminatory. The economic impact of immigration is another major point of contention. Supporters argue that immigrants play a vital role in the U.S. economy, filling labor shortages, paying taxes, and contributing to innovation. Critics counter that unchecked immigration strains public services, depresses wages in certain sectors, and places additional burdens on housing and healthcare systems. Media coverage has intensified the divide. Conservative outlets often focus on border crossings, crime concerns, and government failures. Liberal and mainstream outlets tend to highlight humanitarian stories and systemic challenges within the immigration system. As a result, Americans are frequently exposed to sharply different narratives about the same issue. Immigration is also shaping the broader political landscape. Candidates at every level are using the issue to mobilize their bases, frame opponents as extreme, and signal their values to voters. How leaders address immigration today may influence election outcomes, party strategies, and long-term policy direction. Internationally, the issue affects U.S. relationships with neighboring countries. Diplomatic negotiations over border enforcement, deportations, and regional stability are ongoing. The United States cannot address migration pressures alone, making cooperation with other nations essential, but politically sensitive. As the debate continues, one thing is clear. Immigration policy has become a defining test of American governance. It challenges lawmakers to balance security with compassion, law enforcement with human rights, and political reality with long-term solutions. Until meaningful reform is achieved, immigration will remain a central and emotionally charged issue in U.S. politics. The decisions made now will shape not only border policy, but also the nation's identity and values for years to come.